It began just a few years ago. A disaster of unimaginable scale started in the far corners of the galaxy and had been destroying empires ever since. It all began with refugee ships carrying nobles and high-ranking leaders. Damaged vessels filled with worn-out leaders who had once seen better times. Aged, weary soldiers desperately holding on to lost beliefs. Then things got worse. Exploration teams started discovering abandoned colonies and empty ships drifting silently in space. It was as if some sudden universal force had decided no one belonged there anymore. The few survivors who remained gave reports that were barely understandable, either wild ramblings of unstable minds or heartbreaking sobs from those who had made the wrong choice. Yet every report shared a common pattern. There was mention of a mysterious and powerful force, unknown starships with unimaginable strength and weapons capable of wiping out entire civilizations. This force was moving across the galaxy, erasing life as it went. Empires that had lasted for generations, those we had fought with for thousands of years, began to disappear. Within 2 years, nearly the entire western part of the galaxy had gone silent. Probes and scout ships found entire homeworlds, colonies, and mining outposts completely deserted. As if some unseen god had reached down and taken everything in the middle of the day. Ships in orbit were either left drifting aimlessly or carefully arranged in strange patterns, powered down and lifeless. Space stations sat quiet and untouched, as if someone had arrived, shouted something urgent, and everyone simply left. Personal belongings were scattered. Meals were left unfinished. Everyone was just gone. Whole civilizations had vanished. Suddenly and without explanation. An entire quarter of the galaxy had disappeared in the blink of an eye. By some miracle, we managed to avoid whatever was behind the disappearances. We cautiously entered the deserted areas. Salvage crews explored the empty ships and lifeless colonies. Scout teams used cloaking technology to sneak past whatever force was responsible. But the evidence we found only raised more questions. Some recordings showed a strange alien language, almost like a monologue, followed by sudden blinding flashes of light. Security footage from inside ships showed crew members listening intently to the message, then being engulfed by light, and then, nothing. They were gone. One colony's recovered footage showed the same thing. Everyone stopped what they were doing to listen. Then came the flash of light. Then everyone simply disappeared. At first, we suspected some kind of mass extinction event. But the more we discovered, the clearer it became. This was far beyond anything natural. We originally thought it might be a new type of weapon, something incredibly powerful that could instantly destroy all biological life across large areas. Terrifying, no doubt. But if that were true, why were clothes and armor also completely gone? And more importantly, if this was a weapon, why was there no residue? Surely a weapon with such strength would leave some kind of trace. That's when we started considering another possibility. Some form of advanced mass teleportation. The more we studied the clues, the more we believed this theory. But this idea brought even more disturbing questions. What kind of being or alien civilization had the technology to do this? And if we were ever to fight them, would that mean we'd lose before the war even began? A species with the power to make entire planets' worth of people vanish in an instant. How do you fight something like that? Could our enemies simply teleport any army we deployed, vanishing millions of soldiers at the press of a button? Could we really face an opponent with such overwhelming power? Our answer came sooner than expected. 2 years after the first disappearances, we began receiving reports from our closest neighbor, the Sulumi Imperium, suffering catastrophic losses. We'd heard through unofficial sources that their empire was under full-scale attack. Honestly, it wasn't all that surprising. The Sulumi were arrogant to the extreme, and almost no one liked them. Most of the galaxy even celebrated their downfall, especially after the infamous Catacomb incident a few decades ago. But while others rejoiced, we grew more worried. This time there were signs of resistance. Evidence of battle stretched across their territory. Wreckage from destroyed ships scattered through space. While some vessels were simply left behind and deserted. We sent in scouts and cloaked ships to find out what was happening. What we discovered was beyond horrifying. Enormous ships, kilometers in length, dreadnoughts and supercarriers, had been torn apart by weapons we couldn't even begin to understand. Some vessels had been sliced clean in half by what looked like energy blades. Others were crushed by gravitational weapons so powerful. It appeared as if a miniature black hole had formed inside their hulls. Their remains were twisted and broken beyond recognition. And oddly enough, nearly half the fleet hadn't been damaged at all. They were just still, silent. Their crews had simply vanished, completely gone without a trace. What we found on one of their smaller outer edge colonies was even more horrifying. Massive craters, the size of entire cities, had been struck by atomic weapons so powerful that our cameras began to pick up radiation just by viewing them. Other cities were completely deserted. No people. No animals. Not even a bird flying or a creature running through the empty streets. Everyone was either gone or vaporized. And strangely, the only signs of actual battle on the ground or in orbit came from Sulumi forces fighting each other. Sulumi ships firing on other Sulumi ships. Local security forces battling their own citizens. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just destroying them. It was causing them to turn on themselves. It was fueling a civil war. The Sulumi Empire was collapsing faster than anyone imagined. The deeper our scout teams went into their space, the less destruction they found. And the more they saw of pure, eerie abandonment. It was a haunting timeline showing how quickly they were surrendering. Or how quickly they were being erased before they could even react. And then, the day came. The day everything changed. It appeared just after we had found the final remains of the Sulumi homeworld. Ship. Human in origin. Enormous beyond belief. A monstrous, triangular vessel the size of a planet itself. It emerged on the edge of the star system. Calculated a direct course, and then instantly reappeared right near our colony world. That was when we received our first transmission. A human male appeared on the screen, seated on a throne aboard the massive ship. He wore elegant, majestic clothing, like a king or emperor from ancient myths. He looked at us, and smiled. But it wasn't a kind or warm smile. Not one of friendship or peace. It was the kind of smile that made your stomach twist. The kind of grin that sent a chill down your spine, like something bad was about to happen. He stared at us in silence. Then, in a thunderous voice that echoed across every channel, he shouted a single question. Friend or dead? We were frozen, stunned, no one spoke. It felt like hours passed in that silence. Then, seemingly annoyed by our hesitation, he shouted again, even louder this time. I said, "Friend or dead?" We staggered, covering our ears from the deafening volume. We don't understand what you mean," someone stammered. "What?" the Emperor shouted again. "Are you friend? Or are you dead? I am tired of being alone in the universe. I need more friends." He repeated the question louder than before. "Are you friend or are you dead?" Our ears rang painfully with every word. Then another human appeared, this one smaller, dressed more modestly than the first. He spoke calmly. What his glorious emperor is trying to say is this: we are humanity. For far too long we have been alone in the universe, trapped with nothing but our thoughts. Now we have moved beyond the limitations of reality. We have ascended to a higher state of being. The greatness of eternity is now within our grasp. And we would not wish the suffering of endless loneliness, not even upon our worst enemies. So we invite you to join us in this great ascension. You what? Asked confused. We have surpassed reality itself. We now create our own paradises, or our own hells, as we choose in the vastness of the eternal ether. We have gone beyond the so-called gods, and now we offer you the same opportunity. But there is one condition: unconditional surrender. The Emperor means exactly what he says. Friend or dead? The Emperor bellowed once again. Friend or dead? We're going to need some context, I said. What caused all of this? The smaller human nodded and explained. Humanity was born eons ago, in a universe that felt cold, empty, and soulless. Galaxies stretched endlessly. But we were alone. We were all there was, all there could be, all there ever would be. And after our time ran its course, we moved into the eternal ether, a new state of existence. Now we return, not to rule but to offer. We come to ensure that no intelligent species ever has to endure the same pain, the same unbearable solitude that we once did. Surrender willingly and become friend. We demand it. He lifted his arms like a priest performing a sacred ritual. Friend or dead? The Emperor repeated again. And if we refuse? Yes. The smaller human's expression darkened. Then we will see your kind as lost, and we will commit to your complete destruction. Those who choose to join us will be welcomed. Those who deny us will be cast into the eternal void, forgotten forever, so they never again have to suffer the torment of isolation. You will either become one with us, or be erased into nothingness, to prevent a fate even worse. In simple terms, he said coldly, you will become friend, or we will make you dead. His voice was dripping with menace as he finished. Friend or death? Rewritten version, Part 5. The Emperor and everyone around him shouted again in unison, at an ear-shattering volume. Okay, let me get this straight, I said, trying to make sense of it. To stop us from dying of loneliness, you're going to kill us with weapons unless we surrender and join your empire? Pretty much, the smaller human replied with a shrug. We all glanced at each other. That's when the scanners lit up, warning after warning, as energy levels skyrocketed to impossible numbers. Then we saw it, the source of the ship's power, a neutron star being used as its reactor. and it was preparing to fire. "All in favor of being friends, say aye," I said quickly. "Aye," everyone shouted back in agreement. Motion carried. "Friend it is." I looked at the screen. I said friend. The humans all roared once again. And then, a blinding light engulfed everything. The next moment I was standing in a massive hallway, surrounded by people of all kinds. Naturally, I headed straight to the bar. The place was crowded. Spider people, goat people, even my own kind. For a brief moment, the bar looked full. But then it magically expanded, and a new seat appeared just for me. I asked what they had on tap. "Anything and everything," the bartender said. "Free. Forever. No limits." I raised my mug and shouted, "Friend or dead?" Everyone around me raised their drinks and shouted back, "Definitely friend." And so I spent eternity getting gloriously drunk on free beer. Wouldn't you?